Yeah, roll call, please.
Sticknot?
Here.
Curtis?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Kersley?
Here.
Raymond?
Present. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented? So moved. Moved by Marvin Sticknot. Is there a second? Seconded by Ernie Curtis. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Is there any public comment? Okay, see none. Move on to the Planning and Zoning Office report.
Okay, we had a pretty good month. Actually, most of the stuff was new homes, so that's a good sign. 7 residential, 1 ag inspections for the month. And assume your building inspection report was in your claims stuff. I didn't include anyone, so. Not that report.
This one?
No, the claims from the guy.
Oh, the claims? Okay, yeah, they're right here.
That's in your.
Yep.
Okay. And then, yeah, that other report's just your building permits and the particular parcel that they are. Other than that, it's moving forward. We have 2 zoning hearings today, and the packets in front of you right now are for 2 more scheduled for ZBA at the end of September. One is a rezoning for A1 to rural homestead. Young couple bought some land off his father. It's basically most of it's in the floodplain, but he's got about 6 acres he can build on, so that's what that's for. And the other one is Heritage FS is proposed to purchase a 20-acre tract down by Milford to build another fertilizer plant. And it'll be from A1 to M2. It's at the end of the month coming up. So, and that's all I have.
Okay. Any questions? Okay, we'll move on to the application of Brian and Ann Johnson for variance for property line setback and a conditional use for 5 to 9 dog kennel license.
Okay, that went through ZBA. Ann's over there. She's present today. Basically, what happened was she has seven dogs, and they're all registered. And so Animal Control notified me that that's above the limit to have personal use without having a license. And so Ann applied for her kennel license. It's strictly for personal use, and the dogs are kept in the home. Dr. Youssef sent out his warden out there. She visited, gave out a glowing report of the facility. She's got a specific room set up for the dogs to be cleaned and maintained and keep out of the heat and the cold. So they had some concerned citizens that she was going to have the authority to build a building eventually and have a kennel, and that's not the case, because if that's what she ever decided to do, which she has said she's not, she would still have to come back through the variance process. And the variance is for, according to the ordinance, her house is within 600 feet of the municipal corp line of Danford, and that's the reason for that variance besides the kennel license. It went through and was approved unanimously by ZBA, and the residents were happy with her explanation and the comments made, and so they said they would not be here today.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, but in that meeting, wasn't it approved with the condition that it never become a business?
Well, it can't. I mean, she would have, even if she wanted to, she'd have to come through the process again, and then obviously every neighbors could object and so forth and so on.
Okay. Is there anything you'd like to add?
No, I just moved down here a few years ago to get out of the Kinky area, and we had all these dogs. So when we moved down here, and when their license came up due, we had them registered.
So she's not a breeder?
No.
Got the letter. No, all of my animals are spayed and
Commercial.
neutered.
Yeah.
Okay.
All of them.
Yeah. And obviously, our original ordinance exempted people that for personal pets, but since we had trouble in the past with a few residents of the county having many dogs, and Jim can attest to that. He's here, was he?
He was. He walked out.
Oh, okay. Then they changed that ordinance, and that's why it's to protect, you know, I mean, obviously, personal uses, to me, should be exempt, but they changed the ordinance, and so we abide by that, and that's why we're here today.
All right, is there any questions from the committee? Okay, is there a motion?
I'll make it.
Motion to...
So be it.
Motion to approve, is that what you're...
Approve it.
Okay. Is there seconded by...
I'll second.
By Chad McGinnis. Do a roll call, please.
Sticknot,
Here, yes.
Curtis,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Percy,
Yes.
Raymond.
Yes.
Okay, and thank you for showing. Now, the county board meeting is next Tuesday. You are not required to attend. Obviously, you can. It's a public meeting. Zoning committee is usually, the meeting starts at 9, but the zoning minutes are probably read for an hour or an hour and a half at minimum. So you don't have to, so you're welcome to come. You're not required to. The first two are the only two you're required to attend.
Okay.
So, thank you. If you want to show up on Tuesday, you're more than welcome.
As long as I'm good to go. I don't want to get rid of my dog.
Okay, so then I would say just make sure you show up Tuesday around 10, and then, because that's the only vote that really matters is next Tuesday.
Okay,
The
so...
county board's the binding vote, and that's next Tuesday in this room. And
Okay.
they start at 9, but zoning committee's later on, so you don't have to be here right at 9.
Okay,
All right?
all right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Move on to the discussion and action on the solar ordinance. Everybody knows it passed full board last month, 12 to 4, I think it was. It went to ZBA last Tuesday, I think it was, and it cleared unanimously, ZBA, with little discussion. So, is there any input?
Hardly, it was nobody public-wise was in attendance. It was all county officials or ZBA, and there was no real discussion. ZBA had a couple questions, but nothing major.
Yeah, I have some concerns.
Okay.
You probably remember I voted against it because of those concerns. First off, I think it should conform with the wind ordinance. We should have the lines buried 6 feet deep instead of 5 to conform with the wind ordinance. You can't, I don't think you can tell one industry that they have to bury their lines this depth and the other one that they only have to do 5 feet. So I think that's a minor change. I think it could be easily made. And I think, didn't we discuss having them inspected before they were buried or covered? I think it's pretty important to make sure they're doing it correctly.
I want to say we did.
Yeah, I think we did.
Yeah, because that was one of those things that I noted. I missed the edit, but it was in our committee notes or the discussion about the lines to be inspected before they're buried, which is a normal process. But we also mentioned the NEC code does require inspection before they're buried.
And we do have something in here about complying with NEC code.
NEC. And so I don't know if but to duplicate that doesn't hurt nothing.
Yeah,
Just
not a necessity, but doesn't hurt it.
as far as the inspection goes.
Where would the inspection, would that be just added
I would-
to 3?
Yeah, I would say we added. Okay. Is that in agreement, with everyone? I believe we did discuss that.
To have it
Inspected.
before they covered it,
Yeah.
if they broke any tile or anything.
Yeah, so I'm going to change on this copy so that I can.
Okay.
Okay,
one's the newer?
The newest one is one that says, the one I sent out, the ordinance that's passed by the committee on July 28th. I emailed that out to
Okay,
everyone.
I must have not printed that one then.
That's okay.
Okay.
So I'm going to go to that. I'm going to go, because I have that original here. Do you have it?
Yeah,
Are you
this is
highlighting
it. Yep, this is it.
Okay, just pencil that in, and I'll edit the change.
Does everybody have an up-to-date copy of this on them?
I will
Uh,
email.
Take a couple minute recess, we get some copies made so everybody has it in front of them.
Is
Be a
it
good idea.
the one that's on the website?
Yes.
Yes.
That's the right
That's,
one?
yep. Let me go to the
Everybody
website.
should have one. We double email it, and email it, and decide.
Yeah, it's the one that I sent it out and I titled it the proposed solar ordinance that's passed by committee. And so,
The July 25th,
yeah, that last one that we met.
this one here.
I'll just quickly,
Is that copy?
yeah,
for everybody?
proposed ordinance passed planning and zoning, that's the header.
That has 12 pages.
Okay.
then.
Yeah,
Larry, can you run out and get Bob, please? And tell him we don't need, he went to his office, we don't need copies of this. Thank you.
yeah.
I got one.
Well, you're super prepared there.
Oh, that's because she's awesome. We should get the Wonder Woman sticker and put it on the window, on the door. This way people can twice before harassing or bugging her.
Okay, that was
We're on page
Okay.
3.
page 3.
Because I gotta,
Okay, let's see.
Page 3 at the top would be the no less
Okay,
than
up
5
here
feet.
it's the 5 feet instead of 6.
okay. So what we can do is under, I can add in item E, shall be inspected.
Okay.
Make it as an item, I mean, we did discuss it.
Yeah. But before we get too in-depth here, Jim,
Yeah.
your time's valuable. I'm sure you got a lot to do.
And I know the copy that you sent was an older one, so I don't know, but we'll look at your things and see if we fixed it.
Okay.
We'll let you go ahead first since
Yeah.
you got a busy schedule.
No, I emailed both you and Chad last night, and just with some general proposals, nothing, I mean, the changes I made on the old copy are not such that are deal killers. In particular, it's little things like, the signage, I asked, an appropriate warning sign, but I guess my question is, what are we warning? That it's, what's the danger? That it's a little thing. If we're going to have on decommissioning, I'd like to have a little bit of teeth in there. If homeowners during decommissioning are not taking the necessary decommissioning steps, what can we do?
Okay.
Just put out there, lien on the property, file a lawsuit for specific performance, and certainly include in there whatever we have to do legally. And if we have to hire a private lawyer to get that done, they got to pay the attorney's fees. So we just put that out there for our protection in the future to make
Okay.
sure that it's not going to be any out-of-pocket money on our.
And on that copy that you sent, you inputted that verbiage?
I did.
You didn't?
Not, I did not. I had a separate section in the memo.
Because I had the email where you just highlighted,
Yeah, I just made those suggestions in the paragraph below that. I can do that. I can go ahead and make the changes and get those.
Yeah, you can just, because, yeah, we do need to have some teeth.
Okay. And I'm trying to think. One other thing in regard to penalties, if we're going to seek some penalties, such for weed/grass control, we need to just briefly set out some administrative remedies. So if someone's going to be penalized any money for non-compliance with the solar ordinance, and we need to give them an opportunity to defend themselves. So they need to go in front of the board and have an opportunity. And I can write that out. We do have kennel ordinance violations, and it could be along those same lines.
Yeah, that would,
So those are just small things. I mean, overall,
You're-
obviously, I finally have read this and reviewed it, and just for just a little bit of language cleanup, it all looks, looks appropriate for legal purposes. So.
yeah, the question on setbacks, and I'm...
Setbacks, I was a little confused. Setbacks.
Do you have an extra
second half of paragraph
No.
A.
I was gonna go give it to him too, so he can compare both. We may have cleaned it up, I don't know.
Okay.
It's pretty sloppy when we first.
Yeah, the first one was, because it's,
Oh, what page are the setbacks on it?
page 3.
3, okay.
Yeah, it still needs a little language.
Okay.
cleanup, but, yeah, it's the same. So my question is, when we get to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the fifth line on section A, with the exception of single-family dwellings in which the solar energy system will have a setback for all equipment, excluding fences, be set back 150 feet. 150 feet from where?
oh, from single. Wasn't that from the house?
Yeah, it's supposed to be from.
From the single-family dwelling. The intent was from where the house
Okay.
is.
And then it says, with the setback distance to be measured from of the solar energy equipment. That confused me.
Well,
I know that's a typo.
Yeah, but that's the
I
stuff
didn't
that
know
we
what you
need.
meant, you
Yeah,
know.
exactly.
Um,
Yeah, that has to be crossed out.
So we're saying that it should be from the residence, but here it says
Or
property.
property line of the single-family dwelling.
So which is it?
From the property line of single-family or existing. I believe our intent was to make sure there's 150 feet space
From the dwelling.
from the dwelling, I believe.
Okay.
But if, I believe that, and help,
You're not gonna really make it restrictive to make it 150 feet from the property line, because that's not that far.
right.
And you're talking 40, 60 acre tracts of land. But that's your guys' call. I'm just, 150 feet sounds big, but it's not that far.
no.
Yeah.
Close.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, that's.
So I think we did it from the property line. And we discussed both.
Yes, you did.
Yeah,
We
I don't-
discussed that whole
You
piece.
debated it for quite a while.
Yeah.
And we're specifying the equipment, right?
Yeah, not the fence,
And
not,
there may be a tree line or something
Yeah.
to
yeah,
prevent reflection or whatever. Okay.
yeah, it's where the panel from the equipment.
So that 150 would leave room for tree lines or...
And that's
whatever.
built in, and then they have the fence, and then they're so far.
Yeah, okay.
But cleaning up some of this language, Jim, just as far as the language goes, if we clean this up, does that have to go back to ZBA? That's just something basic with,
It is not a material change, and even what I'm suggesting, if I'm going to add administrative remedies at the end, it's not a material change, because you've already got it in there, $500 fine for violations. So if I add administrative remedies, that's not a material change of your ordinance, so, no, we'll just clean it up and we can go forward with it.
okay. Then, as far as, yeah, okay, that answered my question. Never mind.
And how about the change from 5 feet deep to 6 feet deep?
Not a material
Okay.
change, in my opinion.
All right, is that all you have, Jim?
I will send you, I will email you this copy so you can have it on
Okay.
digits, and if you wanted to type it in blue or red,
Okay,
and then I can,
Yeah.
or clean it up and we can,
yeah.
one thing, well, once Jim's done.
One other question I had is on page 5, we're talking about paragraph 9, installation and design. It says individual arrays/solar panels shall be designed and located in order to prevent glare toward any inhabited buildings on adjacent properties, as well as adjacent street right-of-way. Is that good enough? I mean, is that... I know what it means is, you want to limit it to inhabited buildings. I guess we're talking about houses, basically, aren't we? or office buildings, or buildings that are, I guess, what do we mean by inhabited?
We should specify single-family
should be.
dwelling or commercial. I mean,
That should be clarified.
Okay.
how do we just,
I'd say
any structure or
single-family dwelling.
single-family? That's the intent, that was the intent, is to protect the homeowners.
Any input on that from the committee? Single-family dwelling, is that, I think that's what we were trying to get to. It was late and it was a long meeting, and everybody was kind of, our eyes were glazing over.
If your buffer's installed properly, the trees and the
Yeah.
shrubs, you're gonna eliminate a lot of that right out of the gate.
But you still want this in here?
Right.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So change the word from inhabited buildings to single-family? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I
For when
believe so. The committee's in agreement on that.
Sounds good.
Or do you want me to, instead of limiting it to single-family, just residential dwellings?
Yeah, residential dwellings, better.
That's better.
Language. It's very much better language.
That's all I had.
Now we can go back to Kevin.
I have more. when
Yeah.
you Get ready.
Okay, thank you, Jim.
No, it's okay. I'll hang around if you want me.
Okay, yeah, if you can, it would be appreciated.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Marvin.
On page 4, towards the top, D, that doesn't seem right that the zoning board of appeals may grant a variance. Should that be?
Recommend. Wait, may grant the variance such.
Any kind of variance has to go through this way your ordinances, your main ordinance is set up. Any kind of variance that's granted has to go through the process, and the final say is always the county board.
Yeah, the
And
last
you've got that in
sentence.
there.
Yeah.
You've got that in there. And the last sentence, the Iroquois County Board has final approval for variances to the setback requirements.
So that language is okay then with...
Yeah, that's okay.
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 Okay. I got more. The noise. There should not be
What page?
much noise. I'm not sure where the noise is.
Okay.
Can we find the noise?
Yeah, we'll find
Page
it.
5.
Page 5.
Page 5, number 8.
And I think it should conform also with the wind ordinance. Okay, page 5. Okay, at 8, okay. I think 50 decibels would be about like sitting next to your refrigerator all the time. Would be a constant hum.
Yeah, it's pretty good. The meeting, I know that day I had a decibel meter in here, and the meeting that day was running about 80. So, that tells you anything basic discussion.
I think it should conform with wherever noise levels here. The wind ordinance says should not exceed 35 dB during the hours of 7 to 10 and 30 dBs during the hours of 10 o'clock p.m. to 7 a.m., the sleeping hours. And I can't see why a wind farm would, or a solar farm
have
would
any.
really have any particular noise. It shouldn't be a problem.
No. Just make it 35. I mean,
I think our intent was to raise it up a little bit, because 35 was so ridiculously low. I mean, that's,
Yeah, we
once
discussed
again,
that too.
we're running at about 80 decibels right now, so
course,
35 is
From
pretty darn low.
From my experience, of course, it not only depends on the noise level, but it's the frequency of the sound. That,
frequency is more than decibel.
yeah. And I think if you keep it at these levels, the frequency of the sound would not come through. So, you know, I can't see that the wind farm is going
I
to...
think we, let me reread that. Didn't we discuss that decibel rating was actually only for construction, or post-construction?
Post-construction.
So, post-construction, what about if they have the grass and they have a company in mowing, the mower's gonna make more than 50 decibels?
I think it should somehow specify the permanent equipment.
Yeah.
And we should somehow get that in.
Well, yeah, when the solar farm is in production, and then this decibel level pertains to permanent installed equipment.
I think that would sound
Let
good.
me write that.
Excludes routine maintenance.
Yeah, you can't. The maintenance is short-term, temporary, it's not.
Okay, we'll take this one by one since we're all here. What's the committee's opinions on that? Drop it to 35? 35 is awful low. I feel that's awful low. That's unreasonably low, I believe.
Depends where you're sleeping and it's making that noise or not.
Is there any input?
So you're suggesting 50?
My suggestion is to leave it at 50. 50 is still fairly quiet, but once again, back to Marvin's point, it depends on the frequency, more so than the decibels.
He's used to that a little bit.
Yeah. So I know you've had some severe issues out by you with wind towers, like up by me, they must have changed them, and I very, very seldom hear them.
It's the frequency that gets me.
It's rare.
That frequencies.
I don't think it's a hardship to have it at the same levels as the wind farm, because they're not going to make noise anyway.
He did say the noise would come from a transformer or
Inverter,
yeah,
whatever
whatever
you call
The
it.
normal
equipment
noise
there,
that electric provides.
And it just depends. I guess decibel rating would be relative to the amount of ambient noise that's around as well as how far the sound will travel. So in the fall, maybe a little harder to hear 50 decibels.
And if you put the equipment that hums next to a residence, then you're going to have more of a problem than if they would install it farther away from a residence. And
Yep.
they could control that.
Any input? No input from the committee on this?
I mean, I know we talked about it. I'm in agreement with you, Dan. I mean, 50, I'm fine with. I understand trying to also balance the two, but solar doesn't.
When
Yeah.
go ahead, I don't mean.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
When the wind farms were, pardon? Oh,
No, go ahead, Marvin. and then
Go ahead, I'll
go
go
after you. Yeah, to go next.
when the wind farms were presenting their information, they said that the wind farms would be no more noisier than a refrigerator. Well,
Frequency that gets.
I discovered that if I tried to sleep next to my refrigerator, that's pretty annoying. So, at any rate, and a refrigerator sleeping next to it, I don't know what it is, it may be 50 dB, whatever. But it's just unacceptable when you're sleeping at night and you hear a 50 dB noise.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, I would settle for 35 for everything, day and night.
Ambient noise levels in the room with nobody talking is about 60 decibels. So, go ahead, Dan.
I'm sitting here listening to all this decibel, dingabells, all this kind of stuff. I don't know how to measure it. How do you measure? What do you compare it to? What's 30? What do you compare 35 decibels to?
Well, the decibel meter I have here says right now we're running about 80, and it compares it to conversation.
That's conversation.
Average conversation. Now, if everybody stays quiet for a minute, down to 60, and it calls it a quiet street, quiet city street. So, I mean, I don't understand. It's all relative, I guess.
Yeah, that's,
What one might view as a quiet city street, another may view as a pretty noisy street.
I'm getting in the lower 60s most of the time.
there's a lot of people live next to the railroad tracks. Train goes by every 3 or 4 hours. I did as growing up as a kid. And you get used to it. It's just like the noise you get used to.
It doesn't, it's different. With constant noise that never changes and goes on forever is much different than a train going by. I've timed them here in Watseka, and most of them take 2 to 3 minutes to go through. Yeah, there's slower ones, and the noise varies.
It's loud.
It's that constant, it's, what irritates a person is the constant no change in level or frequency. And that's what the wind farms produce.
What in a wind farm causes noise?
You have mechanical equipment. The generator up there runs, and the blades cause turbulence in the air. We don't need to talk about wind farms.
Well, temporarily here, since we got an audio guy in here, you can talk about
So it
decibels.
goes from 62 to, well, when I'm speaking, it's 773.
Because you're close.
Everything about us is from like 20 to 20K hertz, and 20K hertz, if you got like super sensitive listening like a dog's ear versus ours.
Now, he's at 336. And I was, this is interesting.
But anyway,
Thank you.
make long
You want to
story
see it?
short,
No, I'm good.
The wind, like you said about the trains, my buddy lives about 2 blocks. It seems like every 5 minutes. I would just wait for the train because you could hear the clickety-clack of the tracks and you can feel the rumble on the ground. So,
I just wanted something to measure, something.
But when you talk about trains, who was there first? The train or the person who built or bought the house? When you have a...
you got to remember, when the train came through, that's when they started building the houses around it, so it's a commerce, because railroad was our only means of transportation until,
Right. But
canoes did away with, and...
I think we're getting a little off topic.
But
Talking about trains.
when they came in and built a wind farm next to my residence,
That's different.
They need to be considerate. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, well, I enjoy a discussion on trains as much as the next guy, but I think we're a little off topic.
I mean, obviously, there's been 0 official complaints about noise levels from wind towers at 35. So if you make it, compromise and make it 35, why would there be any from a solar farm that doesn't generate any moving parts except for the the inverter, and that's, I don't know, you guys do it. I mean, I don't have a vote, so I'm just,
I think the thing we need to keep in mind is we want to protect the landowners, the property owners, and the residential houses that are near these. But on the same side of the coin, we need to encourage development and not make it ridiculously hard or difficult to do any kind of business in the county. So we want to encourage them, but we don't want to discourage them at the same time. So my suggestion to the committee is to leave it at 50. Let us get a couple of these built. Hopefully we get a few built and go from there. If we need to lower it, we'll lower it. And then obviously those that are already built would be exempt. But I don't know how you can really decide this and be right, because I don't know what's right and what's wrong here. I don't think anybody really does. The other thing you could do is compromise and meet in the middle.
Jim, if we make this at 50, but yet the wind farms are 30 and 35, is that going to, in the future, possibly cause a problem?
No, not at all. Because what you're deciding is reasonable. Everything is measured in terms of reasonableness. Is the decisions you're making today reasonable?
But the wind farm may come later and say, well, they're 50. Why?
As you indicated, the wind farms have a lot of moving parts and air turbulence and frequencies and so forth. These won't, other than the electrical emissions.
Okay, I'll take your word for it then.
Yeah.
That it'll be okay then.
It's defensible.
Okay, I'll go with the...
Yeah, I'm reading, there was a study on comparing wind and that, the noise produced by inverters, this is an Australian study, is not a serious issue when it comes to solar farms, because it just comes from the inverter, and the frequency of it within the decibel isn't like the frequency and the amplitude of a wind farm. However,
The loudest noise I think the solar farm is going to see is the weekly lawn mowing. So I would anticipate, let's put it that way anyway, I wouldn't anticipate much more than that. Okay, so we're in agreement, is committee in agreement to leave it at 50? Okay.
Yeah. Now, the wording, I want to make sure I have it right. This decibel at the end, the decibel requirement pertains to permanent installed solar equipment and excludes routine maintenance, repair, and construction. Is that what we're trying to, that it's, because we're talking about mowing, you know, obviously the mowers, when they mow the property line is,
I think that's reasonable.
is that what you guys were, I just want to make sure I wrote what you said.
That's okay. Jim?
Yes, that's fine.
Language good?
Okay.
Okay. Once again, just a minor change, no return to the ZBA.
What I will do is, I'll get this typed in, and I'll email you that new,
Okay.
so that then you can make the changes for me,
Okay.
as far as the legal wording.
All right. Marvin, have anything else?
John sent some suggestions here.
While you're looking that up, on the first page, I erred, and I talked with Dan on it to bring it up here. Under definition, community solar, the very first thing, if you look at towards the last sentence, a solar electric system that provides power, financial benefit to, or is owned by multiple community members, where solar generation is, I forgot to scratch on rooftops, because we agreed that it would be under 2 megawatts. And so I erred in not scratching off on rooftops. We did discuss it, and that is what we decided, that the community solar definition would be stuff under 2 megawatts. So,
Okay, down.
right here.
On roof, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that was my editing mistake, but I did not want to, I figured I'd just bring it up now.
So it'd just be scratching on?
Yeah, we
scratching
agreed
off
to it in the
design
notes and
rooftops.
everything, because when we were fixing the definitions based on the advisement, what solar and size and community and all that. So, and it should just read, solar generation is under 2 megawatt alternating current.
All right.
Well, the comments John sure gave to me was that this would satisfy him, what we've done.
Okay.
I think he should be good with it.
He needs to make sure he recuperates too.
Yeah.
You don't mess with the heart.
Anything else?
No.
No, nothing additional?
No.
Okay.
How is the county going to benefit from this, tax-wise?
You mean as far as how the process is, you mean how they're evaluated?
No, if I have 100 acres here, I'd be in charge so much an acre right now. Okay, solar panel system comes by and offers me this big money and put that on there. I still have to pay the taxes on there.
Your lease.
But what's the solar panel have to pay?
I think they take over, that would become
Your
out of
lease.
production, correct? And then they would take
There
over.
is various, at this point, across the state, there are various jurisdictions are assessing them differently, I should say.
I mean, if we can make some money off of it,
Yes,
I mean,
why
yes.
not?
Yeah, I mean,
The tax value
now the
goes
debate
up. I
is,
have
the
it.
big debate is what's personal and what's real estate. And that's always the ultimate question, no matter what you're building. Obviously, if you look over to our neighbors to the west, Ford County, they've had a PTAB case going on for 10 years with a biodiesel plant, because their debate is what's personal and what's real estate. So you have to come up, every jurisdiction, unless it's statutorily decided, like wind towers eventually were, that every jurisdiction has to decide what they think is real estate and what they think is personal property. From the plan, the assessment models I've seen so far, typically the panels are equipment, but the foundation and the framing and all that and the footings into the ground is what's part of the real estate. And then you have to determine a value for that. So that's basically at that point. And then obviously I would assume, since say you got an 80-acre tract, a solar company leases 20 acres of that 80 acres. So you would remove 20 acres from the farmland assessment from that particular farmer, just like we do for the site where the wind tower sits, and then the solar company is responsible for the assessment and taxes on that particular 20 acres, and then the farmer's still responsible for the farmland assessment on the other 60, because I'm sure he's still going to be growing a crop on those other 60.
So do we have to determine how this is assessed?
No, I have to determine.
You have to determine.
And obviously, I would reach out to other jurisdictions, other SAs across the state, how they doing it, and come up with and if this industry takes off, possibly like the wind tower industry did, then there could be a push to have a uniform statutorily assessment, so everybody's assessed the same across the state. But that's the way down the road, and that's a legislative process, and you know how that works. So it's really up to the jurisdiction, and if and there are always the potential for an assessment appeal is within that realm. So, but you can't determine assessment procedures through your ordinance. That's a separate issue.
It sounds like there's...
So when does that come along then?
I would have to, once something's built, I would have to determine how I'm going to assess it.
Like so much a panel or something?
I don't know. I haven't. I mean, I've got enough stuff on the assessment side right now. I'm not concerned. Hadn't finalized anything how I would assess, but there would be tax dollars generated by them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you have an association that you belong to?
Yes.
And wouldn't you guys,
We talk all the time.
I know, but wouldn't you guys, should you be determining,
We do, but
not necessarily
but
some
but
dumb shit
but but
electrician,
but within our
electrical guy.
but within our organization, we have differences of opinion within that group. Just like everybody has, some assessors feel that this is real estate. Some say no, it's personal property. So you fight that fight. So you have, as me personally, within my jurisdiction, I'm going to have to decide using information obtained from other counties how they're doing it. And the more information that's out there, the more solar farms that are built, there'll be more information on how it's assessed. And then it's an evolving process all to itself.
doesn't that create a lot of legal questions?
Sure, all the time.
Because you might not tax them until after they're in business for 5 years.
Well, just the example I just used of the biodiesel plant in Gibson City. The Gibson School District's got like, what, $5 or $6 million sitting in an account because they can't use it because it's tied up in in the PTAB process until a judge decides what's personal and what's real estate. That money just sits there in limbo, and if the judge rules in favor with the biodiesel plant, then the school district, all the taxing bodies, but mainly the school district, has to reimburse that company for all them years, and it's been over 10 years now. That money's been tied up, and so, if you look back at the history, the difference in assessment is huge. It's a big number. I mean, what the county has it assessed at and what the company says it should be assessed at is the difference is big. And you're not going to be talking that with this kind of operate, the solar farms, but they're going to generate tax dollars.
Okay, I feel like we're getting into
Right.
stuff that should be discussed in tax committee.
Right.
You're a little off topic.
But the big thing is the landowners need to make sure in the lease
That's your problem, Marvin.
that the solar company is responsible for that tax piece.
And the farmer, I would assume then through the lease, the farmer will be reimbursed for pulling his land, the amount of land out of production, just like any other lease would be.
Basically, long story short, yes, they will be taxed, and this
It
is
does
Bob
generate.
saying this was the easy part. He's got the hard part. So,
It will generate.
Well, the farmer is the one that's actually going to call the shots. You can either come to my property and build or not. If he's only going to make a small amount of money on it, why would he quit raising corn and soybeans?
And if you find a farmer that's willing to tell you what their lease agreements will amount to, then you're a better man than me, because I've asked and I don't get told nothing what they get for on wind towers. I have not one. I've asked, and they won't tell you what they get. And that's fine. I don't really need to know.
It's probably confidential.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I
It's-
thought-
That's why it's up to them, that's why I asked them if they're willing to tell me, I'd be happy to listen to it, but
It's probably a breach of their contract
could be,
if they do.
very possible.
Yeah, they're told to keep quiet.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, whatever money they get, isn't that taxable?
that's between them and their accountant and the IRS.
So,
That just depends how creative your deductions are.
It's not taxed on the, it's more of an income question than it is a real
yeah, it would be an income.
property tax question.
And I've known some people that have wind towers on it, and they've told me what they make.
Okay, well, we're off topic again here, so let's get back on the solar ordinance.
Well, yeah, that's a good idea.
Because we can go on for hours, and everybody's got stuff to do, so, any further discussion on this? Is there anything anybody else has?
The only suggestion, the changes you guys decided today, I would suggest that there be a list separately on a single page that you can hand out to every board member so they can see them, so they don't have to go flip through 16 pages and trying to figure out what you're talking about. Because they all got one of those emailed to them.
Yeah.
More than once. So they should have that. And then if you have just one sheet saying this is our proposed language changes, and list them out on a separate sheet of paper and then hand them to all the board members, they can look at it and say, all right, then that clarifies it, and then you won't get all this
Save us a lot of grief.
page where we're
A lot
looking
of
at.
grief.
Yeah.
Okay, was something we did not touch on.
I will
We never
generate
decided
that.
if we wanted to move it from 5 to 6 feet. We've never made it.
Oh, we didn't agree,
No, we never,
yes.
we never agreed to any of that. So do we want to standardize it now across all the ordinances? There's 5 feet good, or what's everybody's opinion on it?
I think 6 feet isn't unreasonable. If you're going 5 feet,
One-
another foot is not that.
One more foot probably isn't a deal breaker, so.
I wouldn't think so. With the equipment that they have these days to dig, it's really not a big issue.
Opinions? No comment means I'm going to assume it's 6 feet. So, all right, we'll change that to 6 feet. Then something else we need to touch on is after that, after we get into all them sub-paragraphs, do we need to add, before height, are we going to add any kind of language for inspection?
Who's going to
Give me your
inspect?
highlighter.
Is one of Bob's guys going to inspect?
What do we do with the solar, or the wind, I mean, Bob?
All that got inspected as far as I knew, as far as the county, was the footings and the foundations. Everything else was not inspected by the county.
I think the wind farm calls for an independent person chose by the county, correct, Marvin?
I think it does.
Do we want to, what kind of length do we want to go to on this? What do we want to do? Do we want to just leave it at the electrical code? Is the inspection,
Well, that's what they'll
Pay your guys
inspect
to
you
go out
too.
there and do
it'd
it.
just be if we added, it'd just be a redundant,
Well, obviously the prior
Page
Twin Towers was paid out of the permit fees.
Yeah, but we had...
Add enough onto that to cover that.
If you let it go and don't have any teeth in it, the corporations, as you've seen in your area, they try to get by with stuff that isn't correct. So somehow it needs to be inspected.
yeah, it'd be,
I'm just
the National Electrical Code calls for it to be inspected. Do we want to just add another paragraph that just redundant?
We need to specify who
Yeah,
inspects it.
who?
I'm looking. I thought we said we had that written in there.
I know we discussed it. I think it got left out. We do have something, it'd be in paragraph 2, subparagraph, it'd be under B. It does say something about an inspector chosen by the county,
What
independent
page?
inspector, but it doesn't, it says drainage tiles, it'd be page 3. I think that's probably what we're thinking of, because I remember having a discussion, I don't know if we meant to add that the electrical lines would
That
be...
should be a separate, all drainage tiles shall be repaired or restored to the same or better. That's supposed to be a separate, item. It wasn't supposed to be included as
That's
part
gonna
of
be
B.
number 3.
That was supposed to be like
Everything
item
down.
C. Under power and communication lines, but I can change it to its own number. You know, if we want to just make it number 4, and then height would be 5, and setbacks would be,
And so on.
or I can add it at the end. That might be better at the end of that section. Probably better up front, though.
Yeah, I'd rather just drop
Okay.
it down to 4, and then
Yeah.
everything drops down.
Yeah. Everyone know where, because that was, we verbiage, and that was supposed to be
We're
pulled
on
out.
page 3. Okay, that still doesn't determine our issue with who does the electrical inspections. Do we want to write it in there that it's an independent, or do
It
we
is,
want
it
to...
says that there will be an inspection for compliance by an independent inspector chosen by Iroquois County and paid for. If I make that
So
item,
you'll split,
I'll split that out and make that item 4, and then height would be 5, setback, it'll just adjust down.
okay, so from there, all the
That
way to
whole
the end.
sentence, yeah.
Okay,
So that whole sentence, I know we discussed, and that was supposed to be its own item, but obviously I did not make it in the
Paid by who?
paid for by, it says right here, paid for by the owner operator.
Yeah, it's in the wind
Did
ordinance.
it have a set amount on it, or?
No, there's no need for a set
That's
amount,
all
we
I-
hire,
Yeah,
there'll
that's
be
what we did. We
inspection
took it
for
out of there.
compliance by an independent inspector chosen by us
Oh, okay.
and paid for by,
Okay,
so that needs to be its own,
so that's gonna be determined later, the amount.
charge.
The charge, yeah.
Yeah, Chad, we probably just took it out of here.
yeah,
That's what we did.
Yeah, I remember pulling it out
and
of there.
we put it out and I just didn't make it, so.
Okay, minor change again, Jim? Just adding?
I was just thinking that,
Yeah,
yeah. that's
okay.
what I changed.
I'm going to ask you a lot of questions,
That's
'cause I'm a farmer, not a
That's what I'm
lawyer.
here for. I don't make it to many of these meetings, so well, I'm here.
All right. I think that's all on my list that I had here. So,
And what I will do is, I'll make all the changes in here that we've done, I'll quickly send it to Jim so he can, and then I will also put on a separate sheet the changes so that we have everything, and I'll do the same I'll copy paste what you
You'll never
made.
get the revised copy out in time for Tuesday to everybody.
No, we'll have it,
Right.
we'll make it, I'll
If you
come
put it
early.
on one page, it'll be easy for them to look at and see.
Yeah,
And then Jim considered them all minor changes, so it shouldn't
yeah,
be a big...
and I'll incorporate Jim's changes, and
okay.
so.
Further discussion?
Do we need to make a motion to accept the changes that Jim recommended to us so that I can then make the change?
Yeah, motion to, yeah.
Yeah. So I move to accept the changes that we discussed with the state's attorney
And
to the, and
the committee.
the committee to the solar ordinance, the proposed ordinance.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor. Is there a second? Seconded by Ernie Curtis. Discussion. See none? Call the roll, please.
Sticknut?
Yes.
Curtis?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Persley?
Yes.
Raymond?
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if we just...
I think it's a nice thing about having a lawyer here is how to word some of these motions, because I don't know how it, sometimes I'm lost. I don't know what to put in there. All right.
Okay.
Next, we have the review of the general ordinance we've been working on seemingly forever. I, for one, forgot to bring
Thank
in
you.
all my changes.
I would move that we table that for now.
Yeah,
I
this
don't have
is...
anything with me. So I want to definitely get this done
This
within
is-
the next month or so, so it's been sitting in here way too long. So, okay, there's a motion to table or till next month by Marvin. Is there a second?
Yes.
Second, okay, call the roll, please.
Sticknut?
Yes.
Curtis?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Persley?
Yes.
Raymond?
Yes. Okay, review the claims. Everybody had a chance to review the claims? discussion? Is there a motion to approve?
I so move that we approve the claims and fund. How do you phrase it? County board approval.
Okay. There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second? Seconded by Ernie Curtis. Discussion? Call the roll, please.
Sticknot?
Yes.
Curtis?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Persley?
Yes.
Raymond?
Yes. Any old business come before the committee? Mr. Persley?
I got some real old business. I'd like to have some action taken on 2 pieces of property. One of them is west of Milford, and the other one is east of Loda. These 2 pieces of junk property has been on the books now for 6, 7, 8 years. I don't know, it's been a long time. Nothing's ever been done. And I would like to see some kind of action taken on both these properties to clean them up.
East of Loda was the other one, I'm sorry?
It was east of Loda, it's
And
out there
west
about
of
2 or 3 miles east on the south side of the road. It's an old house with windows broken out. There's elephant grass growing all over. There's farm machinery, if you can see it through the weeds. And there's about a 50-foot house trailer that's lisping about 15, 20 degrees with the windows broken out. It just sat there like this. Now, somebody's going to get hurt someday. I hope not, but it's going to happen.
Dan, do you have a plan for coming up with the revenue to do this?
We've got one of the best looking counties in the state of Illinois.
But we need
I don't want to even discuss that. What are we as elected officials doing to serve our constituents by letting this kind of crap lay around the county?
Do we need
It's us. It's all of us and the whole county board.
Do we need to develop an ordinance to address that?
I'm not an attorney. I don't.
Well, I mean, you have your nuisance, if you read your nuisance ordinance, it doesn't really apply to
Vague.
junk.
Because I have one of those.
It more complies to criminal activity and that kind of thing. And so, obviously, the county, I mean, obviously this committee could start that process. And obviously Terry from the health department has had some concerns over a few properties. That's one of them. I don't know what the one west of Milford is. I'd have to think about that one.
Well, I'll talk
I
to
think
you.
Charlie's got something.
And then there's the one, obviously, out by Ashcombe.
Yep.
It's been there forever. It's out in the, that's the old Elizabeth Brown place. And that's where part of your kennel ordinance revisions came from, was that property. So we have, yes, now, we don't have any particular, I don't have any, from what I can find, no particular ordinance procedures to, you mean, obviously, like the villages do, they have condemnation process to go through to eventually condemn a property and then go in and clean it up, tear it down, and then obviously obtain possession of that property. Now, so that's the condemnation process the villages go through. The city of Watsika does a lot of it because of all the flood damage and stuff. And so they get possession of it, they take title to it, they file for exempt status, and it turns into green space. Now, or try to find somebody to buy it. Obviously, they don't sell anything that's in the floodplain because you can't build on it anyway. But that sense, but the city of Watsika uses their own money to go to clean these places up. They have money to spend on attorney fees, and then go through the process, and also then they hire whoever, anybody clean those in and clean those up. That's an expense. So to Marvin's point, it's still, no matter, I understand the pride sentiment, Dan, I really do, but to do what you're talking about requires money and requires an ordinance that's set in place to do that, and
Liability.
and
Yeah,
liability.
the accrual of the liability.
And we've got another property in La Hogue, it's got a tree sticking in the middle of it that fell on it. I got neighbors complaining about that. The problem is the property owner there has been paying the taxes. Taxes are still paid. I mean, it's their property and they own it, and their taxes are paid. I don't have any,
You can't do
I
nothing. You don't have
I
authority.
really don't have any authority to just, I could send them a letter, I said, please clean this up. Okay, fine, I'm paying my taxes are paid. I don't owe any, there's no lien against it. So until the county decides that's something they want to do, then if you develop an ordinance like that, then you're going to also have to find the revenue to back it up. And that's the rub.
And then we're looking at right now, it's a $39,000 budget shortfall for this next fiscal year.
This
However-
has come up a lot.
Sure it has.
We've always come up with the same thing. Who's going to be responsible? Even if I tear it down, I still got a lot here.
But the bottom line is, there is nothing in our ordinance
That
to
restricts it.
address dilapidated properties.
So,
The nuisance ordinance takes care of criminal activity and that kind of thing, but there's really nothing concrete. I mean, you can stretch the nuisance ordinance out.
Yeah, you don't.
It's a big stretch. But, so you would have to develop an ordinance to take care of what's the, dilapidated property, what's the process. Obviously, you got to give the property owner time to do it.
Potentially some grants
How-
somewhere.
Fine,
maybe.
or fine, a fine process. If you don't do this by this, we'll start, and then obviously if they really don't care, they'll ignore all that, but it's a process. I mean, the state's got pretty specific rules and laws for private property rights that you have to adhere to, and then, because it takes villages
it's not
sometimes
fast.
years
A couple years
to
at
condemn
least.
a property. And so, but that all requires money because it's an expense, because you gotta do all the paperwork. Now, obviously, Jim's office is paid for by, it's a county office, unlike the cities who have village attorneys that they pay separately. So, I understand, I agree totally, Dan, with the idea of cleaning some of this stuff up. I go by that property on Loda a lot, because and it's been there forever. It's been there since I was in high school, I think. And that's 40 years ago.
Okay, Charlie,
I hope I'm not speaking out of place, I'm not on your committee.
go ahead.
But I also hope sorry that Jim was left on this, because this has been brought up back, I don't know, 7, 8 years ago at the, one time. As I understand it, the paperwork has all been done on that Loda thing because it's a hazard.
Yeah, that one has, I think.
It's
you're
a
right,
hazard.
Charlie.
It's the point where we need to allocate money to get it done. The only thing that the cost of it, you can put then a lien on the property to, if it's ever sold, the new property owner immediately has to pay it, or the old one does, or something like that.
To get
But all the
first
paperwork is done. It's the cost between now and collecting the cost back is the only thing left to get it done. But after this length of time, we probably have to give him 30 days or something again. I'm not sure, but that's all up to Jim,
but like you
right?
said, you're on finance.
It's the finances.
So now, where do we come up with the revenue? I mean, it's probably 15, 20 grand to go clean that property up.
And now we have to get several estimates on it.
Yeah, and that's assuming you don't run into any issues like buried gas tanks, leaking buried gas tanks.
So, I don't have nothing against
If you
cleaning
haven't
stuff up.
covered other stuff like that, you'd have to start on it separately.
Right.
Yep.
So, so I don't have an issue. Yeah, you're right. Jim has done all the paperwork on that one, but it's a question of having money to go in and do it and execute his orders. And he can do that on his own because it's a nuisance, but we don't have an ordinance to take care of stuff before it gets to that point either. So,
And that's maybe something that has to be looked at, is developing the
I like
verbiage
the
to
idea you
prevent
mentioned,
it getting there.
get this ordinance going and then fine them. Fine the landowner.
but yeah, obviously
Like
the cities find, business owners, but if they don't get them, it's just, all it does is put a lien on the property,
Well, that
or
could go to
eventually, like the cities do, they'll just write it all off, take possession of the property totally, and then what they do is if they can't sell it, they file for exempt status and you don't get any
Park.
taxes out of it, it's just a
I
park,
think the old lady died on this farm,
possibly.
and her daughter is the mayor of Loda. I was thinking about calling her up one of these days and chatting.
Suppose you tear it down,
Outside
she
the
comes
city
in and
limits,
sues you.
unless you need to be mayor or not, I think.
Yeah, no.
There's a lot of legal things about
Yeah,
that stuff.
so, I mean, I don't have no
What if
issue.
some kid gets killed out there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that
If the
falls
county
under-
has possession of it and that happens, the county's liable, but as long as the county doesn't have possession of that property, we have no liabilities to it
I
whatsoever.
mean, you don't have any liabilities until you take title to it, even if you're cleaning it up. But the question is, I mean, Jim did his paperwork probably under some,
There's a state law that
State law
covers
part
us,
of
but
it.
we can make it stricter.
but you could do a local ordinance, which most of your villages have,
To
the process to
prevent it from
condemn,
getting to that point.
condemn property.
Yeah.
And if that's what you guys want to do, that you have all the,
That's
that's
something
fine.
we're looking to.
But I have no,
Put it on the agenda.
I mean, I can send a letter to, like, you got a property guy over in Timberlawn area. He's got, some days he's got 18 vehicles out there, and the
He
next
runs
day,
a business out of his garage.
next day you go
and there's-
by and he's cleaned it up a little bit.
Yeah,
And just to satisfy,
The sheriff helped me with that one because he had cars out in the road and they told him, look,
Oh,
you
we've
need to move
got
them or you're going to
issues
get
at Lake
ticketed.
Iroquois, yeah, we take care of our
well,
own.
you got your own
We've got our own board.
and stuff, and you have authority, and that's what your board has decided to do. And the county has really no jurisdiction within Bales Lake or Lake Iroquois for that kind of stuff. So, I mean, and it's a viable discussion. You know,
I'll put it on the agenda for next month, we can have further discussion on it, but ultimately it boils down to a lack of funds. My suggestion is start Googling, maybe there's some grants somewhere. You maybe, if you can go online, you might be able to find some grants that the county could apply for and actually maybe start to clean some of this up.
Well, I think we ought to start with an ordinance.
Yeah, we can do that too. We'll put it on,
Something.
I'll put it on the agenda for next month.
Yeah.
We can have a nice lengthy discussion on it, but as of now, I think we're just kind of going in
and I'm
circles.
sure there's legal guidelines that the state puts forward that you have to follow to condemn a property. And it's probably pretty easy to Google or get your hands on that kind of.
But even if it's cleaned up, we don't want the property, do we?
No.
It
Well-
takes off the tax roll and everything else, or besides tax us.
Unless it's a property that could sell, that could then
Make a
recover
profit.
the
Well,
costs. But
It's
that's not
potential,
the
with the
intent.
way some of the solar ordinances wrote, that it's potential, some people might start cleaning up some of these properties.
Who knows?
Who knows?
It's all
But,
circumstantial.
But that, like, Dan, the property he's talking about, it's been there forever.
Yeah.
Elizabeth Brown's property's been like that for years.
I remember that when I was a kid.
And talk about being
Maybe
dangerous
the
for
fire
kids.
department
And the
would like
kids
to
hang
do
out
a
at the
training.
Elizabeth Brown property.
That's what you,
Because they hide in the background behind the house. You go back, if you can get through all the weeds and get back there,
I remember as a kid,
you've seen
that's
some
how.
remnants of kids having a lot of fun back there.
Old houses in
Huh?
Ashton, the fire
Just
department.
outside of Ashton?
trainings.
Yeah.
8-ounce cans.
So, I mean, but there's,
Okay. Okay, that's enough discussion on this. I'll put it on the agenda for next month.
And
We'll
I
actually have
will try to do some research for you on the state code.
Yeah, well, I'll put it on, it will be on the
Balance
agenda next month. I will make a note of that and do it right away, so, okay.
Thanks, I'm glad we brought
Yeah,
that.
we're going. in
No,
circles
thank you
with
for
this
bringing
one.
it up.
So, okay, any other old business? Any new business? No new business. I suppose that means somebody's gonna make a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
Moved by Marvin, is there a second? Seconded by Dan, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Feel-
Motion carried, meeting is adjourned.
Dan, feel free to send me a friendly reminder
Okay.
to